Yo, 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 welcome to another live session powered by Beats, Beds, and Browns, where we grow gardens and greatness. Tonight, we got a wordsmith in the building, someone who's been slicing through silence with purpose and poetry. You've seen the name, you've heard the flow. Please show love for the one and only Kastaway.
Man, thank you for having me, Joe.
Man, we appreciate this. Been in the works for a long time. I know we've been crossing paths at shows and been in the same rooms numerous times having conversations. So we couldn't be more excited to have you here tonight. And we're going to kick things off just like we always do. Same question to everybody: where you been, where you going, and where you at?
Man, where I've been chilling and healing. Where I'm going, I'm going to a place where music is not only just a medicine but a priority for me. So I'm going to a place like that, and I'm also going to a place where my circle is tight, and the people around me are the right people for me. And then where I'm at now, I'm just at the door where I'm going. That's how I feel. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Very ethereal, not necessarily destination based, but making sure you got the right crew with you on the journey and you're in the right spot.
Yeah, that's really important for me. I spent a lot of my lifetime, especially doing music, not necessarily having the right people around me. Not saying that the people around me were bad. They just didn't align with what I spiritually and creatively align with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like anchor.
Everybody had their own vision for what they wanted Castaway to be, especially when I was, running around with certain people, and I was always the youngest. You know what I mean? So that was always like a little conflict. And then pandemic happened, and then after the pandemic, I started meeting the right people. And I would say last year and the year before, so maybe like within the last 2 years, I started getting like the right people around me, and it just seemed to get better like every year.
What running with the crew, being the youngest, oftentimes that's kind of stunting in the development of the individual because you're always looking up to other guys and you're trying to be
Yeah.
somebody you're not. What's the first moment that you remember saying like hip hop is in me and it's got to be let out?
It's always been like that since I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like I just grew up in it where, you know what I mean? It's not like in New York where people like can identify hip hop the minute they step outside, but just everything around me was hip hop. Like I'm from the hood, and the music we played was hip hop, the way we dressed was hip hop. It was a culture. I was just too young to put it into words, right? So it was always there. But as far as wanting to express myself creatively through hip hop, ever since I was a kid. But I really say it came out of me since like maybe sixth grade. Uh, I went through this like big wrestling fan phase, and then it was like right after that, no, I'm rapping, and I could tell you the moment where I wanted to be, or at least where I thought I was lyrical, but I wanted to be lyrical. It was 2001. It was 2001. This was right when all the Jadakiss and Beanie Siegel stuff was happening, and then it bled into Jay-Z and Nas for me. I was in seventh grade. Yeah, I was in seventh grade. My sister Angel was always a big hip hop head. Like she's like, I don't know, she's 10 plus years older than me, but she was always into the more lyrical rappers. I was into like Bone Thugs and Harmony. Not saying that they're not lyrical, but I was more into like the melody based stuff, the speed rap stuff, anything that sounded fast, I liked. But I remember hearing the Beanie Siegel Jadakiss diss on the radio. This was like DJ Ferris was playing rap disses a lot. And I'm like, ooh, this is messy. I like this. You know what I mean? And then from there, like my older cousin Andre was playing a lot of Jadakiss and a lot of Jay-Z. He was a real Jadakiss fan though back then. So I heard his response and I liked it. But Beanie Siegel was like the first like lyrical MC that grabbed me. And then from there I got into Jay. And then from there I got into Nas. And my sister would just hand me a new album every week. So one minute it'd be Common, then it'd be Talib Kweli, it'd be something for Wu-Tang. You know, she and a friend of mine named Marcus Thorne like really pulled me into the lyrical side and the more the neo soul stuff that I like listening to a lot now.
Yeah, and that's interesting to me to hear. You like some of that grimy stuff is what got you kicked off because your
Mhm.
style runs the gamut. I mean, there was some Latin beats. There's some pop and dance hall. I mean,
Man,
you reflect
listen.
on your spirituality. You respect. You're very reflective in your lyrics.
Yeah,
Like, and to
yeah.
hear that the battle was where it started.
Yeah. That Latin stuff came at an interesting point in my life. I mean, it's no secret I was adopted, and um a nice part of my childhood was raised and influenced by a Puerto Rican person, but a Puerto Rican man who I call Pops. He's one of my like three father figures that like elevated my life. But I was like partying a lot at that time when I was making that stuff. And I was drinking a lot too, unfortunately. Like a lot. Nothing wrong with drinking, but it ended up messing with my stomach. We can talk about that later. But I was outside, okay? And that stuff made me feel good. But if you like still listen to the rest of whatever was on that project, it'd still be boom bap-ish, neo soulish. And as far as like the reflection and spiritual reflection and all that, um, I feel like a lot of that can still coincide with the grimy stuff. Now, I'm not grimy in a Beanie Siegel sense, but some of the production I really like is grimy. Like I really like. So, if you go to like a project that came out, I think it was last year, The Omen, that was all grimy beats, but the spirituality was still heavily reflected throughout. Um, and it's probably because I'm always in my own mind.
Well, and it's such a multi-sensory experience, right? You can
Mhm.
capture the ear, then you can capture the thought pattern, and then if you got that combination and it sounds right, then the whole body starts to grow into it. So, yeah,
Exactly.
I mean that's the trick, right? Is getting all three of those things right.
Yeah, and I am a spiritual person, not in like I want to preach or be holier than thou, but like DMX is a big influence in mine, right? And him and artists like D'Angelo, like they made me comfortable with where I'm at spiritually, where it's like I'm not this perfect human being and be okay with not being perfect, but just as being okay with not being perfect, be okay with being spiritual, right? And present that in the music. And when I was making The Omen, I was looking at like some of the, as I would like to call, Chicago Renaissance that we're seeing with, like guys like A.M. Early and Rufus Sims and all
Yeah,
them who
shout
are,
out to AM Early Morning
yeah,
Season One
A.M.
All Star. Shout out to Rufus Season Three All Star.
Yeah. AM's my dog. That's my brother. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, what can separate me from them? Knowing, we all three from out west. You know what I mean? So I'm like that spirituality that come to my thing. That's me. You know what I mean? Like that's unapologetically and unadulteratedly like me. You know what I mean? And we can all coexist and come from the same place and offer something different. So I was looking at that and I'm like, what can I bring to this like dark, grimy gutter sound? Spirituality. You know what I mean? X did it. So why not bring it to this?
Yeah, that's definitely a trend. I know. First episode of season 6, Tyree Hakeem talked about his Muslim spirituality and
Right,
how God is the greater version or greatest version of yourself, right? So that
right,
continuous improvement path and reflecting on the journey versus the destination. And I mean, that's you know, I always tell people, maybe not the drill, maybe not the repetitive stuff, but I
right,
like street lyricists and people who are
right.
telling stories and connecting you across walks of life with their experience. And that's what it's all about.
Right. And it's always gonna be something like, street related in what I do. Not that I'm like, I don't mean like street in the gangster rap sense, because I wouldn't call myself like a gangster rapper, but I'm from North Lawndale. You know what I mean? I'm from out west. I lived in Garfield Park. You know what I mean? Like it's what I see is gonna be in the music, and it ain't always pretty. You know what I mean? And honestly, I don't want it to be, especially at this point in my life. Like I want to tell the truth about what I'm seeing and what I'm experiencing and what people around me are experiencing or seeing, or some shorties that I know are currently going through, and you know, I have empathy for my people going through that stuff. So I'm gonna say something, you know what I mean? And it ain't gonna always be pretty, you know. And I'm gonna tell people now, it ain't pretty now, so don't expect my music to be pretty. You know, a beat might be pretty, but what I'm saying ain't. So
Yeah. Talk about that. You know, it's to be able to reflect on something that you're visualizing or experiencing or seeing other people experience, and you know, being able to create a story that is then desirable to ingest, right? Because we all want to be around positive things. Some of us like conflict, some of us don't, but it's to be able to present that reality that other people might not have exposure to or reference to.
I mean, you know, for me, all right, it goes back to my spirituality. I feel like if I got a gift, if God gave me a gift and you gonna give me 30 minutes to an hour of your time, I better say something, and I better say something that matter. And a lot of people who experience what I talk about, and what a lot of us talk about, they're often not heard, they're judged, they're demonized. And I feel like, man, if I got a gift, I gotta be the voice of all of that. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not the voice that's gonna praise, you know, I don't know if we can curse on here, but I'm not the voice that's gonna praise the ignorance for the sake of ignorance, right? Because the thing I do love about quote unquote gangster rap, but mostly street rap, at its purest is teaching you something and it's telling you lessons. Like when I used to listen to Beanie Siegel, What Your Life Like, I learned from that. I ain't gotta go to jail to learn from that. Like he telling me why I don't need to be in there, right? So I feel like, you know what I mean? There's stories that's being told that if people on the outside just sit down and listen, like they can learn from it, and then they can really see, all right, if this is an adult breaking it down to you like this, imagine that one kid who don't have that voice or who don't have the mental capability to express what they're going through. They need some help. They need some help. So that's why I say a lot of the stuff I say. You know what I mean? I rap about a lot of what I rap about. You know what I mean? And it ain't the only thing I rap about, but it's always gonna be in there. Like that's always there. You know what I mean? So I feel like I got a voice, I got your attention. You know what I mean? I'm gonna give you 30 minutes of some of everything, you know, but that's gonna be in there, you know.
You got any sleeper influences? I know you mentioned Wu Tang, Beanie, DMX, you know, artists outside of hip hop who shaped your style.
D'Angelo. D'Angelo, I'm not just joking. Like I can pull out the vinyls. I got vinyl on my wall. D'Angelo is a huge influence on my music. Donnell Jones, Santana, uh, Curtis Mayfield. Curtis Mayfield is a huge influence. Um, who else is a big influence? Um, Donny Hathaway, Marvin Gaye. Um, yeah, like artists that like that. I like soul artists. I mean, of course, when we talk about the Latin side that I grew up, of course, I grew up on listening to a lot of Fania All Stars, like for my teenage years. So, but even like stories that people would translate for me in English, some of those stories that would come out, like Ruben Blades, like a lot of his stuff, he be saying something, you know what I mean? And of course, I like the melodies and stuff. So yeah, but as far as like sleeper influences in hip hop, like everybody know I love Jay-Z, Nas, Common, DMX, Wu-Tang, Bone Thugs and Harmony. But what people don't know, and this throw people off, one of my biggest influences is actually a female rapper. And it's the most random one. It throws people off. But Foxy Brown. I love Foxy Brown. She raps crazy, and that's a connection I share with my sister Angel too. But her ad libs, all that stuff she was doing, like what? She was cold. Her Broken Silence album, like if people go back and listen to that album, that's an album that was highly personal, highly cultural because she had a lot of Trini stuff on there, but she even got like Middle Eastern samples on there. And then she gets spiritual, she gets personal because you know she went through some stuff. So yeah, that who else influenced me? Like I said, I already said Common, early Talib Kweli, You know what I mean? Busta Rhymes. You
Yeah,
know,
Black Stars. I got my wall of fame right here, and
yeah,
most Def up
Black
there.
Star
I
for
know Black
sure.
Star.
Black
Yeah.
Star for sure. That first Black Star album. Um, Jill Scott. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Faith Evans. Believe it or not, Faith Evans. It was one point in my life where I would write a lot of my rhymes to R&B beats, and then I transferred them over to rap beats, and a lot of that would be like Faith Evans and Mary J. Blige joints. Like Mary J. Blige, My Life is album is a huge um thing on me. Like I always tell people like my dream album would be to make a rap equivalent version of the My Life record. Like if I could
What's
do like
what's a verse or line you wrote that still hits you in the chest? Like you want to shine a light on now?
ooh um okay, so on this Mozart album, um
Dropping November 9th.
yeah, the album release, yeah,
Where's the
November
party at?
9th. Yeah, November 9th. The album release party gonna be at Robert's West Side. It's a collab album with my friend, my guy RP, who's also believe it or not, him and Backpack influenced me. They influenced me a lot as far as when you hear this album, you hear the albums after that, you see I'm rapping a whole lot better because of them too. But anyway, you know, there's a song I did where I was literally coming from work, and I work with youth, and I was having a hard time, and I was having like an emotional breakdown, and I said, um, it's a song called Scars. I say, am I being selfish or late or lazy? I know this work is hard. I know who I do it for. I never claim to be like God. I'm a human being with feelings that can be seen as flawed. Can I truly be a leader if me and my flock are sharing scars? The reason why that's standing out to me is because there's been a lot of like trauma, a lot of like tragic events happening around me within the last like 2 months, you can say. Like people I'm watching die, kids I'm watching die, and I'm like, damn, man, I'm not fully healed from my own childhood trauma, and then to be working with children and to be fighting for them, you know, especially, you know, Black and Latino children. I'm not fully healed from my own trauma. So how can I be any good to them if I'm still messed up? Right. And
Yeah, talk about that. Talk about being an educator and the balance of being a musical performer, a lyricist, and having a day job.
let me tell you, a lot of people would say you gotta pick one or the other. And at this point in my life, I say I'm doing both. Now, here's the reason why I say I'm doing both. Because growing up, I ain't really had that many like role models in education. I didn't. And I would have loved to see more role models that looked like me and sounded like me. I'm not just talking about Black role models. I'm talking about role models that was from North Lawndale. The ones that we had, they were more like security officers if they weren't, you know, confrontational with us, or like lunchroom, you know, cooks or something like that, or custodians. I ain't have like somebody who grew up in the neighborhood in the classroom with me. It was one sub that we had after our teacher quit on us when I was in like 7th grade. But she was only a sub, but she lived a few blocks away from where I grew up at. And it was like, wow, here's somebody I could relate to. But then one day I was watching this documentary on BET. I think it was like the top 25 Black shows or something like that. And A Different World came up. And they said something that was interesting to me. They was like, yo, Black college enrollment was at its highest, or it was really high at that time. I don't know if it was at its highest or it was really high at that time. And mind you, this is like late 80s, early 90s. I ain't had none of that growing up, right? So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stop denying every part of who I am. I'm going to blend these worlds together, you know, because I need people, especially these kids, to see I'm just like them. Don't let my title fool you. Don't let me being an educator fool you. Like, and don't let it discourage you either, right? Like, I'm really from this, and I want you to believe you can be everything you want to be. You don't have to like do one thing just because everybody say, oh, that's the way the world works. Nah. And then I was talking to this rapper named C Red. I don't know if you know C Red. She's a female MC. She's super dope. I think she's from the South, but I know she's like in the Milwaukee area. She's on Ron Fest, like last album. And I was at Ron Fest album release party. I think it was last year, matter of fact. And she's a surgeon. And I'm like, yo, she's one of the dopest MCs on the planet, but she's a surgeon. Yeah. And she inspired me because I felt conflicted that I was getting this doctorate degree. And I'm like, I initially was going to quit rap after I got this degree. But talking to her, she inspired me to like, nah, you know, you don't quit who you are, you know? So I'm just as much as an MC as I am an educator, you know? So when I dress up for work, I'm wearing sneakers, I'm wearing Jordans, I'm wearing Adidas, you know what I mean? You know, I talk the way I talk, the same way I don't maybe curse as much at work, you know what I mean? But I still talk like I'm from the block. But you know,
it's so important. Representation, period. No matter what color, no matter what.
And then you have
no matter what, it's
you have these urban school districts that be saying, you know, we want to be culturally responsive. Then let's be that. Let's really be that. You know what I mean? And if you're going to allow us to be that, then let me speak in my native tongue. And, you know, for better or for worse, my native tongue is North Lawndale. That's my native tongue. West Side, out west, Illinois. That's my native tongue. Maybe have a slight New York accent because of all the New York rap I grew up on. But I'm from out west. I'm not gonna sit here and deny that. And I'm not gonna deny it. And you know, that's when I start like marrying the two, you know. Marrying the two. I don't deny it anymore. I used to deny it. I didn't say deny it. I used to hide both careers from each other because I was worried that if my regular job found out some of the stuff that I was rapping about, then I get in trouble. Now I don't even care because I don't rap about nothing crazy. You know what I mean? If you really listen to what I'm saying, it ain't nothing different than what
real life. You can't escape real life. I mean, that's
exactly like y'all being impacted by the same stories that I tell. Like the root cause of these stories are some of the root causes of the challenges we dealing with in the education system. And I talk about them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, talk about your writing process as you try and balance that, what you're presenting versus, you know, the message you want to be received. And are you a pen and a pad guy? Are you taking voice notes on a mobile phone? Do you perform only
the way I work now, it's a little different. When the pandemic happened, I was able to kind of build my own studio in my own place. I don't do the mixing, none of that. Most of my mixing is done by my homie. I call him my cousin C-Note. I would send him my vocals, and then he'll, you know, clean it and make it sound the way you hear it when it's good. That's for the most part him or my guy Mike in New York, in Brooklyn, New York, and then my guy Dan in Connecticut. So yeah, when that changed my writing process because then I would sit and hear the beat, and then I just, you know, get the either writing in my head or typing in my phone right then and there because my mic is here, my chair is here, and it's just going back and forth, you know. So I learned, you know what I mean, how to like write more spontaneously. Then when you know, the world started opening up, I just seen Backpack. What up, bro? We're gonna talk about him in a minute because that's my dog. Lately, since when the world opened back up, I started writing at the gym too. So I'll be on a treadmill or the elliptical, write, or I'll go to the studio, right there. But I don't really have like the rhyme books and stuff the way that I did when I was younger. You know what I mean? I haven't put a pen and paper in years. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and say I Jay-Z everything. There's moments where I actually do, but I do write really quick. Like it's really, really quick. And a lot of times, again, this is why I go back to my spirituality. I feel like I don't even be writing this stuff. I feel like God be giving me stuff. And then I listen back and I'll be like, dang, I wrote that. I didn't even know that. You know? Like the whole process, the whole Mozart album, the Mozart Noir, also known as the Black Mozart. I wrote that right there on the spot in the studio with RP. Literally, he didn't send me many beats in advance. He'd just be playing beats and we'd be talking. I'd be like, yo, what's that? Pull that up. And then I just go for it right there with RP right there.
Nice. And you know, how do you know when a track is done? If it comes to you, if you're hearing the beat, Like I feel like there's a perfectionist element in any creative. Oh, I
Yeah,
gotta change this. I gotta change this. You could probably still change it after it's released.
I change the rhyme right while I'm recording it. If I'm like not feeling something I said or the syllables don't fit, I'd be like, I've been sitting in the booth like, hold up, give me a second. And then I think and I fix it right there. I also like write or I think of things in chunks. And if the chunks aren't fitting like a puzzle piece, and I feel like I'm slipping or like a word or a syllable ain't stretching the way it should, gotta do it over. You know what I mean? And then as far as like the album process, I made some mistakes. There's always like one song I regret, but there was on the latest two projects, and again, this is why I appreciate RP and Backpack. They'll tell me straight up, this song ain't it, bro, or it don't fit. You know what I mean? And it just won't go.
And does that get parked for another release, or does that get
Nah, I tossed that.
that's
I
done?
tossed
Yeah.
it straight up. It's over with. It's a wrap. Nope. I'm not one of those people who have like a ton of songs left over per project. If I don't use it, I don't like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What role does silence play in your creative process?
A lot. I don't like many people. Okay, so this is a thing that my brother Backpack get on me for. I'm so silently competitive that I don't want people to know what I'm working on. When we live in a day and age where everybody know your business. So I know I'm gonna start opening up my recording process soon. But nah, I don't like people knowing what I'm doing. I got like friends of mine who won't hear an album till it drop, especially if you're a rapper. What? Nah, no, not hearing it until it drop. I share something with like AM early morning. Of course, I share things with Backpack and RP. Yeah, I don't even share stuff with my cousins. You know what I mean? And I got a lot of people in my family that rap. I don't share nothing. Like nope, no, I don't like that. I share stuff with my guy Words. I share a song or something. You know what I mean? Because I just like the element of surprise. You know what I mean? I hate sharing early music. I don't like people knowing what I'm working on, who I'm
We're
working
all the
with.
more flattered for the early taste of the most
Yeah,
been
man.
enjoying it for a couple days. Check it out November 9th. Be at the release party. Stream it immediately when it's live. You're really
Yeah,
going to enjoy it. I know I have. I really appreciate the early taste.
I appreciate that. You know, I just felt like you would appreciate this project and then the ones to follow, right?
Without
Uh,
a doubt. And I like the focus because I know we talked about it. I've been taking the week before interviews to go deep, and you got a
yeah.
lot of production. You got a lot of music available and out there to sort of be able to focus on something new. Really helped me to dial in. What's a dream collaboration, that would test your pen and your patience, but you really want to work with that person?
All right. Whew. Honestly, wow, man, I got one. I got an idea for Common. And believe it or not, I don't know if I should share that idea, but I would like to write from the perspective of that kid growing up out west in Lawndale who listened to him when nobody around me was. I mean, with the exception of my sister and like my friend like Marcus and stuff like that. But I grew up in Lawndale. They weren't listening to that. You know what I mean? They was listening to like, A Ball and MJG, which I like that stuff too. I ain't gonna say I love A Ball and MJG. Do or Die, like the street stuff, you know what I mean? Like that type of stuff. But I would listen to Common and people be like, what? Until B came out. But I would love to write from that young man's perspective to Common, like, listen, like you've been my childhood hero, like why you ain't come out west for somebody like me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Another person is Lupe. You know what I mean? I love to work with Lupe. Lupe has stretched my pen for sure. I actually picked up on some things from Lupe. My guy Omar Raps pointed it out when we was in the studio working on something, where things will fly by you. You would think I'm not saying anything, but then when I break it down, it's like, oh, hold on, I ain't catch that. That's a very much Jay-Z and Lupe thing that I got from them. You know what I mean? People usually go with the cliche Jay-Z and Nas. Of course, who wouldn't want to work with them? But for me, Common is personal. Now, as far as like underground in Chicago, you know what I mean? Like I said, I got a lot of respect. Well, AM, I got a couple joints with AM. I got a couple joints with AM. I got something coming out with him early next year. I'm gonna talk about that in a minute. I want to work with Rufus. I want to work with Neek. Who else I want to work with? As far as rappers, maybe Fillmore one day. You know what I mean? All the West Side dudes. You know what I mean? All our West dudes. That's who I like. You know what I mean? Even though Neek, he from out South, I rock with all the West Side dudes. All the West Side dudes who really, really, really rap. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Do you approach performance like rehearsal or ritual?
Rehearsal. The recording is the ritual, but some people would think it's a ritual because I really be getting up there and I be saying stuff. I might even cry. Like, I ain't gonna lie, when I started performing again after having a number of health issues, I cried on stage. I ain't even gonna hold you. It was at the Omen release party. I cried. And
what is that? Is that just a overwhelming joy of being on the stage and having gone through things to get you there? Or?
Yeah, it was that, and yeah, because I didn't think I was gonna be able to do it. You know what I mean? I had so much anxiety around performing, and even though it was only an in-store thing, it was a success. But I cried because I didn't think I could do it. Coming from having intense talking pain, which I still have, every now and then. But at one point, it was every day for like almost a year. So let alone rapping and then performing, it was like, oh man, you know what I mean? So to be able to release an album and to talk about some of the challenges, because I don't think I always touch on health challenges, but I feel like the Omen album was the album that changed my life. You know what I mean? And I just cried. So I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen Sunday. I don't know. And honestly, I told RP there's 2 songs on here I wasn't gonna perform because of how emotional they were. Well, I'm performing them. So we'll see what happens. You know what I mean? We'll see what happens. I wouldn't be me if I didn't perform those songs. You know what I mean? I could sit there and battle rap all day, talk about, how I'm the illest rapper on the planet all day, but I don't think that's what people just expect to hear from me. They're gonna hear me talking crazy because I'm always talking crazy. If you know me personally, I'm always saying wild stuff. As nice as I am, I say some wild stuff sometimes. And the people who hear it the most are like 2 of my father figures. They heard me say some of the most craziest stuff, and they passed this, and they heard me say some of the most insane stuff. Well, yeah, some of that goes in my raps, but I wouldn't be me if I ain't speak from a personal space. You know what I mean? And an emotional space.
What's one thing you wish the audience understood about being an indie artist?
One thing about being an indie artist is that we ain't got to be famous to be effective, right? Because some people I know that do wish the best for me. They like, oh man, we got to get you to sell 1 million records and go platinum. I'm like, that's not the only dream I have when it comes to my music, right? Like, and that there's underground artists out here who got a cult following, who's making a hell of a good living. You know what I mean? Like they never heard of them. They never heard of Griselda. They never heard of 38 Special, Skyzoo, Shay Noir. They never heard of these acts. And I'm quite sure those artists would like to reach as many people as they, desire, but I'm quite sure they ain't even tripping like that because they making a bag. You know what I mean? Now, granted, if my stuff sold 1 million, I ain't tripping. You feel me? I'll take the 1 million. You dig? But yeah, if I can make a cold following with my stuff and they extend the following I got, I'm cool. Just keep buying my records. You know what I mean? You want me to make some money, buy my records. Don't sit there and tell me, oh, I need to sell 1 million. No, buy the records. You know what I mean? So that's one thing about indie artists that, I wish they understood, Yeah, we don't have to be famous to be effective.
On that same vein, in today's landscape, music business in general, how important is intent? You talk about not caring if you go platinum, that not being the end goal. You talk about making an impact as a teacher in North Lawndale. the intent behind the music, how important is it?
Oh, for me, everything I do is intentional. You know what I mean? I have to be intentional. I don't like doing stuff just for the random. You know what I mean? Even backpack, I talked to him. I'm like, yo, I want to do these joints. And he reminded me of being intentional. Like this, you know, like I don't know if people pay attention. I don't drop a lot of loose songs, right? Like if I drop a loose song, you better believe it's an album coming because I like my stuff to tell a story, top to bottom, to be cohesive as possible. Like I said, I feel like I might have messed up the cohesiveness in certain projects with one or two songs, but I like my stuff to be an experience. You know what I mean? And then I want you to come back to that experience. You know, some of my stuff may be too heavy to, play back immediately, but some of it, like this Mozart project, that's gonna be one you can just, spin back a couple times. You know what I mean? Like I can understand, like somebody might say, like the healing might be the album I released earlier this year might be a little bit too heavy because I went heavy on that one. But it's also made for when you're not going through the greatest time, right? Like, and that was intentionally made for that. I wasn't making that project to be everybody's, easy listen, right? I wanted that to be for you if you're going through something. You know what I mean? I mean, there's some feel good moments on there, but if you're going through something you ain't feeling your greatest, here you go. You know what I mean? So I'm very intentional with what I do.
Nice.
Even when I have my merch, that's even intentional. You know what I mean? I ain't just putting out regular stuff. That's why my stuff be taking time. You know what I mean? I'm not just gonna throw stuff out there.
Yeah, you got to. Otherwise, you put out a bad T-shirt, somebody washes it once, and it goes in the junk drawer, just like everything.
Word. Shout out to my guy, two of my people, my DJ, and my brother Vest 120, and then my brother Andrew Home. Like they responsible for a lot of my merch, and they are intentional with the merch. You know what I mean? They both got their own lines. You know what I mean? Ill Reform and We Each Belong, which are both intentional, and these are both man of the people. So who we get together, anything we do align. You know what I mean? I don't just do nothing just for the sake of it. And
Well,
another thing too, I like my music again to be not just for me, but for the people. Like and when people say for the people, that's such a broad statement. But like for the people who are really like experiencing stuff, going through stuff, you know what I mean? Um, and just feel like they need a voice, you know.
well, Castaway, we appreciate you being here. We know that, like all the interviews, we could continue talking all night long, but we want to be respectful of your time. Is there anything you want to share before we jump into hard hitters and wig splitters as we're rounding third on this interview?
Oh man, just know that this is coming soon. You know what I mean? Vinyl will be
Mozart
in
Noir.
stores. You know what I mean? Vinyl will be in stores. You know what I mean? Me and RP from Green Lights, man, one of the dopest producers. He's doing a beat set. Like, I can't wait for like people to really hear what he's doing, so more people can come to him for production. And then, I mean, it's a test pressing. You know what I mean? I don't know if you can see that clearly. Castaway and Backpack Beats, Circle
Test
oh
press.
01, coming early next year. And shout
All
out to
right.
Sugar Records too for the support. So that's what I like to say. November 9th, everybody be at Roberts West Side. We about to put it down.
Appreciate it. Yeah, wish we could be there. Thanks for the early taste. Again, we're Beats, Beds, and Browns trying to give away 100,000 seed kits. If you are interested in growing your own food, you can scan the QR code here at the top right of the screen. Enter your information. You can choose from carrot, dill, lettuce, or we have a chaos pack right now. We'll send those directly to your house. But without further ado, it's time for hard hitters and wig splitters. Do or die, yes or no, this or that,
Okay.
quiz style answers. All right, here we go. Common or Talib?
Common.
Common. Illmatic or the chronic?
That's hard. Okay.
It's like different point in life too.
Yeah, because I'm gonna keep it real. I love the chronic. The MC in me is always gonna say Illmatic, But if I'm just driving and I just want to put on a dope album, it's the Chronic. So it's hard to choose. I'm gonna go with the Chronic on this one.
Yeah, I mean they're both cover to cover. There's no loss.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the Chronic, and there's a reason why, because I've grown to like It Was Written more than Illmatic as I got older. So I'm gonna go with the Chronic on this one.
Nice. You get one verse on a Primo beat. You going in or passing it?
I'm going in. It's Primo.
Going in?
Yeah. I used to buy albums just for the Primo joint when I was a kid.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we didn't talk much gardening, but tomatoes or peppers?
Man, I got acid reflux. So, jeez.
Nice.
I'm gonna say peppers because not all peppers are spicy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you do you do any growing? Are you a gardener
My
at all?
grandma had a garden, and she used to make us work in the garden when we was younger. And I used to hate it. And then I started working with kids and started gardening again with them at one point, with special needs kids. And it grew on me, and I remember a lot of what she taught me. You know what I mean? So yeah, I was actually working in my grandma's garden when I was a kid. She had a big garden too. It wasn't a small one. It was huge. It was huge. It was like a lot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, make sure Grams gets her seed kit. You can register. We'll send it right to her.
Man, unfortunately, she passed away.
Sorry.
Yeah. I rap about. I touched on it on Mozart. Yep.
I'll dig in deeper.
Yeah.
How about starting some seed or transplant?
Starting some seed.
Starting from seed. That's like a proud claim if you can start it from seed for sure.
Yeah.
Raised beds or directly in the ground?
If I could have it my way, directly in the ground.
Fair enough. What about whiskey, bourbon? You mess with the brown at all, or?
Man, so when I did drink, and I still have it, my favorite bourbon was Kaval. Kaval. I actually have a bottle right there. So anybody come to the crib, is right there for you. Kaval was my favorite.
Phenomenal distillery off Ravenswood in Chicago.
Oh my God, Johnny came to the crib one time. It was me, my guy Phil. I think my homie Luis was over there, and he just bought it. And I'm like, yo, what's this? And we just killed the bottle. You know what I mean? And everybody I put onto it, they just like, what is this? I'm like, y'all sleeping. You know what I mean? I put one of my primary mentors on it. I'm not gonna say his name because he's a real important political figure. I told him, like, yo, you like whiskey, you like bourbon, get this. And he called me and thanked me. And I wasn't even drinking alcohol at that point, but I told him if I could, that'd be the first thing I can go back to right there.
Yeah.
Yup.
So are you a rye or a bourbon guy, or?
Bourbon. I'm a bourbon dude. Yup. I never got into rye.
Whiskey with a beat or whiskey with a book?
With a beat.
With a beat?
With a beat, yup. Yep, with a beat for sure. I don't know if I can drink and read. I tried that. It didn't work out for me.
I ended up falling asleep, yeah.
Yeah, word, yup.
So freestyle on the spot or write it perfect in private?
Write it perfect in private. Though I can freestyle, but write it perfect in private.
Nice.
Yep.
Early morning studio or late night session?
It doesn't matter to me, but I'm an early guy, so I prefer the earlier sessions. However, lately I've been in the studio like late night. Yeah.
How about if this last show on earth, do you want an open mic or a headline arena?
Headline arena.
Headline arena. Why not go big, right?
Yeah, why not go big? You know what I mean? But it got to be packed. Got to be packed. You know what?
That small show vibe packed is nice.
Yeah. Because you know what I would like to do? I would love to do like an unplugged type of joint. You know what I mean? So let me change my answer. I would go like an unplugged type of joint, which probably leans to the open mic capacity. You know what I mean? I don't know. This is a good question. You got me.
It's crazy how
no.
I'm performances over the last 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Where mic placement, diction, obviously breath control, it can make or break a show. It can make or break a performance. Mm-hmm. Guys that have it really stand out from guys that don't. And regardless,
I get
I'm
busy on
a
stage.
small show guy. So I love the tight venue with the crowded space. And
I feel like you can have fun at both, but
oh yeah.
man, you know what? I'm gonna go. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go big stadium for the sake of my producers who invested in me, who gave me a
Yeah.
chance, and who want their records as big as possible. Let's go all out, and they got to be at the show. They got to be at the show, and I gotta have a roped off area for my people. You know what I mean? They can't mingle with everybody else. I gotta keep them safe.
I love it. I love it. So you've made it through Hard Hitters and Wig Splitters. Tell everybody where they can find you on social, and we'll close out the show.
Instagram, Kastaway Music. Same thing with Facebook, Kastaway Music. I don't really do Twitter. I use Twitter for the wrong reasons. I argue with the battle rap coach, and I just be messy on Twitter. Y'all don't need to see that. And TikTok, honestly, I just follow sneaker content, but mostly Instagram, Twitter, and then my website, castawaymusic.com. Yeah.
Amazing. All right, Kastaway. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm going to pull you into the green room while we close out the show. Like to chat with you a couple minutes before we wrap completely, but thank you. All right, that's season 6, episode 2, working with Kastaway this evening. And again, I'm Joe Skibby with Beats, Beds, and Browns. Our mission is to shine a light on emerging hip-hop artists, garden interests from homestead to commercial ag, and bourbon whiskey distillers. Whether you want to grow your own food or want to share the gift of growing food with someone else, you can get a free seed kit at beatsbedsbrowns.com. We'll mail anywhere in the contiguous 48. Right now, you can choose from Chaos Gardening Kit, lettuce, carrot, or dill seed. And again, we'll send that to your house free of charge. We'll send it as a gift. Anybody you think might benefit from that, visit us at beatsbedsbrowns.com. And I'm Joe Skibby. Happy planting.